So what's up? Yeah. I see Matt and see everyone on. Hello, hello.
Word.
Cheers.
Cheers,
All right.
DJs and Beers.
Cheers.
What's up, y'all? What are
Which
you?
episode is it tonight? What number is it?
28.
28. Wow.
Jesus.
I've completely lost the count. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Guys.
Hey, everyone.
Everyone has a beer this time too, which doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Everyone, welcome to DJs and Beers episode, I don't know,
28.
28 according to David.
That's what it says on YouTube.
And I'm having a Vienna style lager. What are you having?
Yummy. Oh, he's got the...
I got the Helles.
I just ran to this brewery Monkish and it just got this one today. Like they just released it and I got back, I don't know, 15 minutes before we started. And I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna barely make it on time.
Sweet.
I'm having a Modern Times Alien Radio.
That one's dope. I had that one before.
Wow.
That's a good beer.
Cheers, guys. Happy to be back.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, Chris.
Yeah.
Happy to have you back. Good to see you again. You've had a pretty interesting few weeks.
Yeah, I would say it was quite intensive 3 weeks I've had. Yeah, thank you so much for your support. I can basically thank everyone out there who kind of like showed support. It was really meaningful. It was really, really nice. It was really helpful too in those times. Yeah.
That's good. Glad to have you back.
So good to have friends like you guys. It's really, really nice. I mean that. It might come across a little sarcastic, but I mean it.
Ah, dude, come on.
Cheers on that.
Yeah, cheers.
Absolutely. Cheers, man.
But apart from that, I had quite an interesting experience because obviously I completely faded out of social media. And you're in a totally different world, and I've never. I mean, sometimes I've kind of abandoned social media, maybe for 3-4 days, and you're just not participating or anything like this. But that time it was different because you were just like, it just reminded me on days before there was social media, really, and it was really interesting because. You know, there's these documentaries now on Netflix. I haven't seen that one. What is it? The social.
Oh, yeah. The dilemma, social dilemma.
The social dilemma. Yeah, I still have to watch that. Or do I have to watch it? I don't even know if I have to.
You should watch it.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Do watch
it. Yeah. Well, my experience was that I always feel like I'm not really addicted to social media. That it's the thing that they say, who has the WhatsApp still open here and loud?
Sorry.
Sorry, headmaster.
Where was I? I got distracted now.
Yeah. Talking about social. Yeah.
Anyways, it was almost reminding me on the days before social media because it was just I was completely off the grid, and they say that you're kind of getting addicted to social media because of your dopamines, right? I got distracted now. Oh, now I hear myself. What's going on here?
That's Mo.
Is it me? How's that possible?
I see you clicking around, and all of a sudden this sound just pops through. I'm like, it has to be Mo. Sorry.
Start again, Chris.
Anyways, dopamines, they get like you do a post, and when there's coming a like, you're like, oh great, somebody's affirming my position or whatever you were posting. And I always felt like, also when you watch commercials on television, I grew up and I always felt like I'm kind of immune to this, like there's a beer commercial on and no, I'm not buying that beer. I'm buying a different beer anyways. Like who cares about the commercial? And the same way I always felt about social media, but I've realized after I think about 3 weeks, just recently, just about like 3-4 days ago, I did just a random little tweet. And I've noticed that at some point something in me was so curious to go back to my Twitter and to look, who's responded. And while I did this, I was like, wow, it's really happening. It's also happening to me. And I saw some replies and it made me like, ooh, and I literally could feel the dopamine being released in my head. It was pretty insane. It was like a really interesting experience in that way.
Yeah, it's also interesting whenever you're going through Facebook and you see anybody post something like, I'm tired of Facebook and I'm leaving this and I'm not coming back. And then like literally 2 weeks later, you see them again.
Yeah.
All the
So
time.
we're literally all hooked up on a drug, right? So
it is an addiction.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Totally.
Even if you think you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. I would say like everybody just get off social media for a while and do this, but just continue to watch this show on YouTube. YouTube is okay, or do you have to watch it on Facebook? I don't know.
You don't have to.
I think I think if it wasn't for the pressure of being an artist, because we're also self-reliant on marketing ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever use social media myself, but it's almost an absolute necessity these days in order if you want people to hear your music or be in touch with what you're doing, because you can't expect other people to do it for you. I think there's a very, very, very slim amount of artists who can get away with having no social media and their music just automatically gets discovered. But unfortunately, not everyone's privileged to have that. So we're kind of like a slave to the routine, regardless at some point to it. But yeah, if it wasn't for that, I think I find it kind of pointless.
Actually, it kind of brings it's an interesting point. Like Chris, how was it? How were you promoting yourself and events before like social media really blew up? Was it just through the music, through DJ mixes?
I'm sorry, David. I didn't hear a word you were saying because as you can see, maybe I'll rearranged my whole place here, and I've just recabled it just before the show, and I just literally hit the wrong button here, and I didn't hear your question. Sorry. Can you?
No, I was just saying that. I was just saying, like, how was it promoting yourself back in the day before social media? Was it through just from DJing at clubs and DJ mixes and your music? Was that the promotion?
That's a good question. What years are we talking? Are we talking
like 2000, 2001, 2002? Before fucking MySpace.
I mean, that was that was the time where you released CDs, mix CDs, DJ mix CDs. Like, actually, funny you're asking, like this one.
Yeah,
that is me live in Belgrade. Which is a really good lead up to our guest, I guess.
Yeah, nice.
Also, on top of that, I think the majority of artists and I'm sorry, was I interrupting something, Chris?
No, nothing.
He's just showing his CD.
Okay, I think everybody was more focused and centered into getting their information from one particular place, like whether it being from your magazine or nowadays there's so much noise and so much going on out there. It's impossible for everybody to get their information about musicians and artists unless you're following them directly on social media.
Yeah, it's like when in the 90s when you hear about like DJs, I mean, I guess everywhere, but I would say Chicago's, where they were making mixtapes and just selling them from the trunks of their car. Mm-hmm. And that was like kind of like their calling card, like, hey man, here's a mixtape. You got a phone number on there or email, hit me up for bookings.
Yeah, it was a lot of word of mouth, people talking to each other. That's a great DJ. Let's go to that party. And essentially the flyers. It was great that Mo sent that flyer of my, I guess it was really my first gig in LA in 98. Oh my God.
Yeah, 1998.
And those flyers were really important. If you were on a flyer, you were just like, that was one thing. And another thing that was really important is where you had your residency. Basically, in that case, up till 98, for example, it was the Omen Club in Frankfurt, or the label that you were releasing on. So that was in brackets behind your name, and that made the people like, oh, he's on that label. Oh, he or she is on that label, or he or she is a resident in this club, because the club was sort of famous, because everything was really um, yeah, people just talk to each other, I believe, you know.
Yeah.
And when were the early days of internet again? Like what did we say? 97?
Mid
Yeah,
90s.
97.
Yeah.
97. There was guest books. You had your website, and then on the website you had a guest book. And in the guest book you were basically, it was kind of like the pre comment section of Instagram or Facebook or something like that. So you had the guest book, but people would need to go on your website. You know, there was no central hub where you had your profile. There was in the beginning MySpace, right?
Yeah.
No, there was Friendster before MySpace.
Yeah.
I never did Friendster.
Yeah. And I really remember when the internet got a little bigger and people started to upload mixes. That must have been around 98, 99, I believe. And that was the moment where you were basically sometimes unwillingly or unknowingly, your mixes were going out somewhere because somebody was recording your set somewhere and uploading it somewhere in the internet. I remember my first gig in Brazil, it must have been end of the 90s, was only because somebody heard my mix on the internet in Brazil, you know?
Yeah.
Crazy.
So everything was so small still. And so, you know, the amount of people actually who had a say of who is hip and who's not was really like, they didn't have much leverage, and B that it was really like a small group of people.
You got to think as well, Chris. So you got to think of the amount of time that you put into your craft. These things in 2020 are like literally a click away. You can go onto Discogs or you can go onto Beatport, and suddenly you know everything about any genre, you know. But for us, when we started out, I mean, actually finding the records was difficult.
Oh yeah.
You know, you'd hear like maybe a DJ play or you hear a mixtape, and then, you know, actually trying to discover music was a lot harder, you know, and then trying to piece it together, you'd have to actually carry your records around. You know, it was so different, you know, and that was the passion that you had, you know, and not being in front of a computer, you know, checking the Facebook or Instagram likes, you know. It was so different, you know. It was purely about, looking back at it when I was like 18, 19, it was just 100% just completely music. That was it. There was no distraction, you know.
And like when you think back, like Chris, you know, you used to throw parties and book DJs at Omen too, right?
Right.
I mean, what would you book them based on the music that you liked, or did you hear them play before, or is it just because they were on a label that you liked? How would you select a DJ?
Oh, it was because the music they released.
The music they released.
Know? Yeah, that's how I got in touch in the early days with people like Adam Beyer, for example, or Marco Corolla. In 97, 96, I just asked them to come to the Omen and play with me there. And because the Omen was so well known, everybody was like, oh yeah, of course. And that was such a bonus that I had, you know. I accidentally slipped in there as a resident, and I kind of abused my position there a little too, because I kind of knew the managers well, so I just went around the owners and never really told the owners what I'm doing. And then I went downstairs to the managers and said, hey, there's this great producer DJ in Sweden called Adam Beyer. Next time I'm playing, can I just invite him to come and you give him some money and stuff like this? This is how it worked, you know. And then I would somehow get in touch with Adam with a fax machine, maybe, because he had a fax number on a drum code record. Yeah, I remember the first drum code record. That was a record that I got in my hands in a record store, in a Delirium record store in Frankfurt, and I was like, wow, this is great. I need to get in touch with this guy. Yeah. And the same thing with the Advent, with Cisco and Colin back in these days, you know. I basically was really sneaky. I was just like, you guys want to play in the Omen, you know? And I was just this little like local DJ in the end, just trying to get in touch with all these people because I really admired their music so much, and I wanted to get to know them and learn and do all these things, you know. And that was your hub. That's how you did it. But we kind of sound like that everything was better in the past. What is the advantage of today's social media?
Well,
Anyone?
I would say the biggest thing is that you can connect to all of your peers, all your heroes. You know, like you just said, you know, connecting to Adam Bayer would have been via fax. I can remember doing the same with DJ Sneak in the mid 90s, but
Right.
literally you just go on Facebook now, type in a name, and you know,
You can
some
hit 'em
people
up
might not
directly.
reply, but you know, some people do. And it's great that you can connect to people that way. And it, you know, whether it's reissuing music or working with another artist, you know,
I think
connecting with-
social media was the most powerful before Facebook and Instagram and all these took over the algorithms and making everything kind of paid to promote. Because before that, I mean, you can promote anything, and everyone who followed you, everyone who wanted to get information from you, got an update about your music. I mean, it's not like we went out and seek people. People liked your page because they wanted to receive your updates, and I think that's still true till today. But now, if you don't pay a certain amount of money, none of those people are ever going to see, you know, what you're promoting.
Yeah.
So the reach isn't nearly as strong as it was even 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
Right, but you could also be just scrolling on Instagram and see some artists with music that you don't even like and just pop up.
Sure.
I mean, blown up in your face, and you're just like, oh, what the hell? So, you know, like you pay to get seen in any, you know, I guess any musical direction. It doesn't matter. They just want to be plastered in front of you.
Well, maybe we should ask our guest what's her perspective of the whole thing. Matt, would you want to introduce her?
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? An amazing DJ from Serbia, a female DJ from Serbia. I've known her for quite a few years, and yeah, we should just welcome her to the show. Let's welcome Tiana.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice.
Yeah. Good to have you on the show.
For inviting me.
How are you doing, Tiana?
I'm okay. I'm good. I made my tea, and I have some water here. Now they were promoting drinks, you know. I don't drink beer, and I have some chocolate as well.
Nice.
No, it's okay. I was just drinking my tea as well, so you know, it's
either way, cheers.
Yeah.
Either way.
Interesting thing. I was listening to what you were talking about, and actually, I have a slightly different perspective because I come from a non-European and non-Western country. So it's actually like the whole perspective is completely different. And I do remember also the 90s and beginning 2000s, and what actually shaped our taste and what would be popular among my friends or the generation of music lovers and ravers at that time would be things that we would find on SoulSeek.
Right.
Oh yeah, I was a big user of SoulSeek myself too.
Downloading music because that was the only way to get the music. Serbia was in war and isolated and under international sanctions, and actually until this day we kind of like don't have legal music distribution, especially for independent music. I mean, obviously now you can buy everything online, but it's
we lost.
Back then there was nothing. So there were people that you would connect with on SoulSeek, and then you would be able to browse their collections and to somehow like get updated in that way. Otherwise, it would actually be a radio, because we had a few radio shows, or actually a couple of radio stations that were really cool and independent. And certain local DJs would have radio shows there. But it was so insane. Like the whole thing would be like someone would have a satellite TV, and then they would follow like the night programming of Viva or MTV2 or whatever the alternative TV would be, and they would record video and audio, and then they would extract audio and play it on radio.
Wow.
There was no laws protecting any copyright. So it was literally like chasing for bits and pieces of information, because there was no no other way. Still, somehow people manage to be very updated. So we already knew about Chris back in the day, for
Yeah,
example.
he just showed a CD that he made that was recorded.
I showed off my
Remember that.
Belgrade mix CD, which I was very proud of. We did this in 2005.
Wow.
And Peter Dundorf was playing. Mark
Oh,
Wee.
okay.
Do you know Mark Wee? He used to
Of course.
promote,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
He's one
Hello,
of the
Mark.
countries who had radio shows. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Mark, in case you're watching. And he was organizing all that, and it was like we just said, like, let's, and that's how it worked. You know, when Matt said early on how were you promoting yourself, I was just basically at times recording mixes, and then you release the mixes. The great thing was that by selling those mixes, the artist, obviously, because every track was licensed, got some money, and you made some money because you had a release, different than today a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the other hand, also, like talking about social networks, I think as much as I really like dislike many aspects of social networks, and I think now it's really a drug that everyone is collectively addicted to, and it's really bad for like collective mental health.
Absolutely.
Generally, like to the collective perspective of the world. On the other hand, for example, if there were no social networks, I would never have a career. I wouldn't be sitting here with you and talking, because for me,
Absolutely.
coming from Serbia, my chances are really like the way I was able to connect with people was only like that. And I was actually lucky enough that I had an experience as a music journalist. So I was interviewing a lot of musicians and DJs, and I had an accidental singing career in a live act with Abe Duque. So I was touring a bit with him, and then I met a lot of people from the music before social networks. So I kind of established the basic, like the core of my contacts before that time. But this helped me, like connecting with these people through social networks helped me build my image, and helped me actually also make this transition from being a journalist to being a DJ. I just, like, the moment I realized I don't want to make music, TV, and radio shows anymore, I started promoting my shows on all my social media. I started writing all my posts in English and literally posting only about that. And I also connected with some of my favorite producers and people that I admire. Actually met. This is how we met. I wrote you a message on Facebook on your, like, I think it was your DJ page or something.
Yeah.
I like your productions or whatever. And that's how we became friends. So actually, like, for people who come from places which are not, you know, London or Berlin or Paris or even New York and LA and all that, where you just go out and you can go to a club, you can see a poster, you can join a local radio station that will promote you, and you will get like global audience, and you will be connected with global players. Social networks, the networks are a good thing.
And Tiana, could you were talking about
being from country like Azerbaijan, you know, or what are your options? You don't have a prospect of getting an NPS radio residency. Like, you can't dream of that. You know?
There's some people in the comments, Donna, who's asking if you can turn your mic up or maybe speak a little bit louder because they can't hear you very well.
Me?
Yeah. Sorry. Didn't want to interrupt.
Is it?
You could probably, there's probably like an input adjustment you can turn up in the settings.
Or just maybe speak up or pull a little closer to the laptop.
I think it's just like the input settings that might be a little low in the Zoom preferences.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't worry about it too much. We all try to sound like Mo. But we always fail at that.
You know what? I'm getting rid of this mic, man. I'm going back to the laptop.
Well,
Like,
am I competing a little bit now? Am I?
Better now?
There you go.
There you go. That's better.
Much better. Much better.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ah, perfect.
It was all automatic, so I didn't realize that it's very low, actually.
Yeah, now it sounds good.
Now you're loud and clear. But Tiana, while you're at it, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the beginnings of your career. You were a TV and a radio presenter, as you just mentioned. And what time frame, what years are we talking here when that was happening in
very
Serbia?
Long story, and a lot of it's a long story about a bunch of coincidences and very seemingly random choices that I made, but in the end, somehow everything made sense.
We have a lot of beer and a lot of time, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, I started making music TV shows for an independent TV station in Belgrade in 2000. It was the end of 2000. So the country had the so-called peaceful revolution, when pretty much like the majority of people just went out in the streets and they kicked out a dictator that we had back in the 90s, and then the whole system changed, and then there was a lot of media freedom, and the general like vibe in the air was that a lot of space was given to young people, so everyone looked for like fresh new energy. So somehow I started working for this TV station. I was creating a couple of music TV shows. One of them was called the VJ Hour, where my job was to select videos and to play them and to announce them. Something like, the old MTV style, where you just announce videos. But I was also doing interviews and reports. And then I did several different formats. And the good thing about these days is that the country was so chaotic, and it still wasn't that capitalist. So the media was not commercial, and there was so much freedom. I could basically do whatever I wanted, and I was like, I played like crazy stuff. I would play like industrial live versions of certain songs for like 15 minutes, no break, like nothing. Or like crazy noise, and then the next would be Justin Timberlake, because I really like the album. It was very much like all over the place, but because
that's a harsh contrast.
But honestly, I mean, some of his tracks are really amazing, actually masterpieces. And I still believe in that. And that was generally like that's how I grew up. It was, people would listen to good music no matter the genre. So the audience was not that harshly divided between those who listened to indie rock or those who listened to electronic music. It was just about good music. Yeah, anyway, so that's how I started, but I never really wanted to do that. That was just the first job that was offered to me. I was like, I come from quite a poor family, and I needed money to support myself, and I was looking for a job, and a friend of mine offered me, because he knew I was into music, and he offered me to start doing these reports for TV, and I was like, okay, it's a job, it's paid, I can do it. And then I started liking it more and more. I got very, very passionate about it. I guess I became very quickly the most passionate music journalist in Serbia. I would come back after 9 days of Exit Festival with 5 kilos less and 150 interviews. Like I would literally do like 15 interviews a day. I would not at all. So yeah, I built my reputation by conducting interesting interviews and playing the music that no one else dared to play. And interestingly enough, it became actually popular. So some of this weird music gained some sort of following in Serbia because I was playing it. And I always presented it as if it was massive, even if it's the most obscure, like Japanese electronic artist, I would always announce it as if it's like super huge and you should know about it. And somehow these artists got their following. I mean, that's one part of the story. And then I started working for Exit TV. They invited me to do their press and promotion. And then I persuaded them to start their TV shows because they had a lot of influence in the media. So they basically had a deal with the national TV. And I told them, like, unless you don't educate your audience in a 5-year time, like you're not going to be able to sell tickets in Serbia, because media became more and more commercial, and there was less and less music, and there was less and less good music. And I could sense that Exit Festival was becoming mainly international. So there would be like 70 or 80% of international visitors, and local kids wouldn't even, be able to get informed on time on the bands that were playing the main stage. So we did these shows for a few years. But gradually the media situation in Serbia changed a lot, and there was like more and more compromises to be made. And I tried to do some compromises, but it was very hard for me, like morally and ethically. I just didn't want to, you know, play some shit music and talk to some boring people in order to work on TV, because that was never my aim. You know, I just wanted to, you know, create meaningful content. And after I realized that I wasn't able to do that anymore, I stopped working on TV. And that's one part of the story. Another part of the story is how I became a performer. So back in 2005, I helped my friends Gordon and Vlada. Chris, you might know them because they booked you a few times in Belgrade. Yeah, they're like really good old friends of mine, and one of the first DJs in Belgrade. And they created.
Hi, if they're watching.
They were among the people who created the taste in electronic music in Serbia. So they were promoting a party, and they asked me to bring Abe Duke to some interviews that he was about to do, just to walk him from the hotel to the radio station. And in the first interview he did, he said he wanted to become the next Quincy Jones, and he's looking for his Michael Jackson. After he finished the interview, he invited me to play with him. He was touring as a live act back then, and he had a few very popular releases. And I was like, it's entertaining. I know I can sing because I used to sing in a choir and in a band, but I don't know this guy. I know a few tracks. I don't know how. Like, I don't know how your live act sounds. We didn't do a sound check because I was too scared, but I was thinking about it the whole day. And then in the evening, they gave me like 2 glasses of champagne, and I just jumped on stage in the middle of his live act and improvised, and everyone loved it. And he invited me to come to Berlin and record something. The moment I arrived to Berlin, his agent and him were waiting for me at the airport. That was back in 2005. And they just gave me a train ticket for Frankfurt. They told me, okay, you're playing with Abe at Groove Magazine birthday party tomorrow in Robert Johnson. And it's Luciano, Ricardo, and Magda, and all these guys playing. And it was back in 2005. He was in New York, and I was in Belgrade for 3 months. We didn't hear of each other. We still didn't rehearse or anything. So it was another night of improvisation. But then there was like a technical incident going on during our live act. One of the power adapters just went on fire, and everything stopped except for my mic, because my mic was connected to another mixer. So I had to sing a cappella, and I couldn't remember like any lyrics of any songs, like anything.
And were you playing, Tiana, were you playing in the big club as well, next to Robert Johnson?
Yeah, exactly. We were actually playing downstairs.
Yeah. And I can't remember what it's called, but they used to
MTW.
Probably was the MTW.
MTW.
They used to take over the whole space, didn't they, for those parties?
Yeah.
I remember.
Exactly. They took over the whole space. There were 3 rooms.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the only song that I had in my mind was this old 80s Yugoslavian pop song. So I sang that in my own language that no one could understand while the guys were fixing the technical things. And we got a huge applause, and Heiko wrote a really big positive review in Groove. And all of a sudden, promoters all over Europe started inviting Abe Duke and his new singer. Wow. So we started touring. But that was all happening parallelly with my TV job and my exit work in Serbia. So, and it was before social media, so it was really interesting. I was able to actually hide my performing career from everyone in Serbia, almost everyone. There were a few people who were following the press, and they kind of saw me on certain lineups, and they realized that something was going on. But it was very entertaining for me to like lead this parallel life where on the weekends I would travel and play Space Ibiza or Nuit Sonore in France, or some like amazing clubs around Europe. And then on weekdays, you know, I would wake up and go to edit my show at 9 a.m. and have like completely parallel lives. So that's how it actually started. So when I stopped working on TV, I just realized that I'm DJing already for some years for fun as a hobby. and that people started inviting me almost every weekend, and that I can actually just call it my career. Because even when I was working with Abe, I didn't really take it so seriously. It was just like a thing on the side, something exciting for me, but I didn't see it as a career. But then, yeah, then I focused on DJing, and it took me another few years to actually like find the proper agent and somehow break through internationally.
What kind of bands did you sing in?
Oh, there was just this one cover band.
What did you cover? What songs?
No, the songs were okay. I don't know. It was Depeche Mode, Nick Cave, stuff like that.
That's always
Oh, there you
okay.
go. There you go.
Yes.
But the music was cool, but it was just a small cover band.
But when you said you were hiding your singing gigs from the TV life, was that on purpose? Was it like a contractual thing, or you
But
just didn't want?
it wasn't contract. Nothing in Serbia was that professional back then,
No.
nor it could be right now. I mean, like none of my jobs was ever providing enough to set these kind of you know, contractual elements, because
Yeah.
working on TV was actually really badly paid. So it's not. It was more for me. It was more of something that I really wanted to pursue. It wasn't really like. I mean, I was popular among some people, and then the exit shows on national TV made me even more popular. But it wasn't like. It's not the same like working on German TV or American TV. It's different. The rules of the game were different, especially back then for shows like that. I mean, now there are certain TV stars in Serbia that earn a lot and they have exclusive contracts, but it wasn't the case for me. Actually, now that I look back, I think the reason why I was hiding it was some sort of like insecurity. And
Really? It seems like you have so much confidence just to jump up and start singing like randomly with somebody. I could never pull that off. I mean, applaud you for that.
Can you sing, Mo?
No, nobody would want to hear me sing, that's for sure.
I've heard Mo sing in karaoke.
I was probably drunk too.
Sorry.
well, I knew I can sing. I knew that I can sing, and I knew that it's not going to be an absolute disaster. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, like, why not?
Yeah.
Just it would be a fun thing to do, and it was really the highlight of the party, because when I jumped on stage, like in front of me was maybe like 1,500,000 people. Half of them knew me from TV, the other half were my friends. So it was really like a great moment of Abe's show and the whole party, and I knew it would be. So I was like, yeah, why not? But my lack of confidence was another thing. I mean, first of all, I was always into music, and I kind of wanted to play a piano or an instrument when I was a kid, but my parents didn't really understand it. They come from different fields. My father was an engineer, so for someone like him, being an artist is absolutely out of the question, or was back then. So I never got the confidence to actually like really go for it. And another thing was, like doing the things that I did in Serbia, which is still like a very very patriarchal environment. And then being that young, I was in my early 20s, and then being popular and successful, it was a bit of a painful experience for me. There was a lot of smart asses who were after me, and there was a lot of people who actually like openly hated me. I guess because I was different. And also when I started doing my parties around the same time when Abe was playing. When I met Abe, I started doing this series of parties with a friend of mine, and she was also making music TV shows, and we were both into music, and we just wanted to make parties and play, like not even DJ properly. We would just like play, like radio style, no mixing, just a song, like songs and tracks. And all of our friends who were DJs and who were our really good friends, and we supported them throughout the years with our shows, and we promoted their parties, and we danced to each and every set of theirs. all of a sudden they started kind of like talking behind our back and hating on us and started gossiping about who we fucked. Am I allowed to say this?
Yeah. You say anything.
But Tiana, there weren't like, I mean, when you talk about TV shows in Serbia, I mean, there weren't like, I mean, there weren't loads of channels, right? So you were like an anomaly. There weren't other people doing what you were doing.
True.
So it's easy to be in the position of envy then.
Yeah. So then when I started touring with Abe, I thought like it wasn't a conscious decision. It was more of like a mental trick that I played with myself. But now, like looking 15 years later, looking back at it, I think it was just a way of protecting myself, because I thought that this will bring even more attention to what I'm doing. And a lot of people already consider me as someone who stole something from them, someone who stole the position of a DJ, someone who stole the position of a popular TV presenter, someone who stole their chance to play in a club. I got it, they didn't get it for whatever reason. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm the only like person from Serbia who's actually touring around the world. How much hate is that going to bring on me? So I better just keep it for myself and my 5 friends.
It's like bringing on the evil eye on yourself.
And did you
now I'm actually sorry. Now I'm sorry that I didn't have a different attitude towards it, but yeah.
But do you have any of the shows of the TV stuff? Were they archived? I mean, are they anywhere? Are they on YouTube? Any of these?
There are a few interviews from Exit.
Okay.
There's the Beastie Boys interview. There's Lieutenant from the Pet Shop Boys. Then I think you can find one with Dave Clark and the one with Scissor Sisters. And they're really bad quality because it was uploaded in 2006-07.
Okay.
The shows, some of the shows are archived, some are gone forever. Like the craziest ones from the very beginning, they're not archived. I know that some people in Belgrade have a few VHS tapes with my old shows recorded, but I still have to trace them and digitalize it.
So the first show, these were done in a studio in Belgrade, right? And you would present. How would you show the videos? How was it done? How long was the show?
It was an hour long.
Okay.
And in the beginning, I had Thursdays. It was from noon till 1 p.m.
Yeah.
It was aired every day, and each day had a different host. Yeah. And each day, like each host would have a kind of a style or a genre that they would present. Mine was electronic, mainly electronic music, but also very eclectic. Also the crazy stuff, as I said. But then I got another slot, which was Saturday afternoon, like 5 p.m., which was really like a primetime slot. So I did 2 different shows in a week. And then there was another show, which was more of like an entertainment magazine, just like short news of what's happening in the music world.
How did you have access to music then when the distribution was so limited? Was the broadcasting station helping? Was there like a library what you could go to?
We were still stealing music from MTV and
wow.
And Viva, and what was the French one? There was another French, MCM.
Uh-huh.
There was like a satellite room in the TV, like the TV station, and they had to follow. I mean, each TV station has that. They follow other TV channels around the world for major news, obviously. But then I would, spend all my days there and, bringing chocolates and presents to the guys who worked there so that they could switch the channels to the music channels and record for me. And then I would like rewatch all the shows and then cut the videos that I liked. I would archive them in the general archive of the TV station, and we would hide the MTV sign, the
logo. So you
would crop and expand the whole picture and crop it. But there was also there was a person who worked for the radio and TV station whose job was, he lived in London, and his job was to collect promo videos and CDs from record labels. So we would often also get official videos directly from record labels, but that was rarely ever, exciting music. It was usually mainstream. I would play things like, when Aaliyah first appeared, I got it on an official promo, or when Coldplay had their first single, I had the official promo, but not for Ed N2X or Otekre, which I wanted to play.
So you're a proper pirate VJ.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like pirate.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it was a way. It was,
totally.
It was, but honestly, the moment I started making money with my DJing and with music, I stopped with all forms of piracy, because I just looked at it fair. If someone is paying me to play for other people's music, I have to pay for it.
Well, in all fairness, I'm sure however you obtained the videos that you played, I'm sure people, even the musicians, would appreciate it, having their music played in Serbia to a larger audience,
Especially on TV.
Yeah,
which would be probably pretty good promotion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the issue today too. You play a set, you stream a set on Facebook, you play some really good techno music, and then they shut you off because you violate some copyrights. But the artists probably wouldn't even mind that their music is being played, right?
No, they're happy about it.
That's the weirdest thing that's happening. By the way, I just want to quickly drop in for those people who are wondering where our friend Dubfire is. He's actually, I think, watching us from a plane. He's sitting in an airplane. He's on the way to where is it? Romania. He's going to.
Bucharest.
Is he? Okay. He was supposed to have a gig there
He's looking
tomorrow.
for a wife, I believe.
He's looking for a wife.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
You didn't say that. Please do
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah. Anyways, he was hoping to play a gig. I'm not sure if he was hoping to get married. But so we shout out to Ali, and he's going to be back next week. But because of Corona, there was the flights, or so there's such few flights in the week that he had to take one on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Hi, Ali. Just want to quickly put that in before I get another beer, because mine is already gone.
But Tiana, there's nothing like this now in Serbia, right? Are there any lifestyle music programs left on TV? I mean, it seems like in Europe, they've all kind of diminished. I guess it's the same with MTV in the States. I mean, there's no music left on these channels, So
like in Serbia, we're done with music. We're really not done with music, because there's a lot of passion there still. I mean, I guess you guys all know it. And there are amazing clubs and great DJs and great artists. I still think like some of the artists from Belgrade, some of the DJs from Belgrade are the best DJs I've ever heard in my life. But it's not like the way that people consume music is not through traditional media. It's not TV. It's not even radio anymore.
Right.
I guess it's internet radios, mostly international ones. And then also, I guess people belong to certain communities. They can stay in touch. They can follow artists, labels that they like. That's how they discover music. But even just, switching through radio channels in Serbia these days, you always hear exactly the same songs. There's not one single radio that is different. They all play. It's not the same kind of music. It's actually the same playlist. It's the same 1,000 songs that they have.
And how's the artist scene out there? Are there a lot of artists that you're in Belgrade?
I'm in Berlin right now, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I live between Belgrade and Berlin, so I'm not in Belgrade full time.
Are there a lot of artists out there?
There are. I mean, there's not so many artists because, as I said, having a career in music in Serbia is not something that many people can even envision as a possibility. I mean, there's no infrastructure. There are no laws that kind of like protect you. There's almost no way to make any money with that. So the good thing about artists there is that they actually do it just for the love of music and for their true passion, and not because they can pursue a career. And most of them usually kind of like know that there are like the chances of becoming huge are very slim. It's not like, it's just the environment is just different, and it doesn't provide much. On the other hand, like there's so much going on locally, and there are so many different clubs and so many different places where they can play, so that most of these people are very, very active. And luckily there's actually internet and social media, so they can grow a big local audience and maybe like regional following. So yeah, that's what's happening.
And what's going on at the moment in
what I would say is that people from Serbia are very passionate, and the things they make and things they do are very exciting. And because they're like not, they are into it, everyone is like extremely educated and informed on whatever is happening in the music world, but they're outside of any of these like centers. Music is very authentic.
But is everything, what's going on at the moment in Serbia? I mean, is everything shut club wise? I mean,
they're doing they had like open air or like semi-open air small parties in club gardens, or terraces of clubs, and I think they need to close at 11 right now.
Okay, so kind of same as Berlin.
It's exactly the same as Berlin.
Right.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Corona, because we're all confused. I'm totally confused. I really don't know anymore what to think even of how to go on and what's going on. We have a new curfew now also in Frankfurt, which I found out yesterday, that you have to be out basically home by 11 o'clock. I can't even remember if I've ever experienced anything like that in my whole life, that you were somewhere where somebody told you you have to be, well, not necessarily home, but you can't go anywhere at 11. I saw a tweet from Matrix Man today where he was like saying like he had to order 2 beers and some French fries to deliver to him, because it was literally in Berlin, nothing open anymore. Like what's going on?
We had like Serbia had one of the strictest and hardest lockdowns in March and April and May, where people were not allowed to leave their homes at all, for whatever reason, after 5 p.m. until 6 a.m. in the morning. So it was like 12 or 13 hours a day, every day. And then from Friday, 5 p.m. until Monday, 6 a.m., nothing. So that was like 3 whole days of not being able. So basically, like, you would be allowed to walk for like half of the week. And then everyone who was above 65 years old was not allowed to leave the house at all. They could go shopping once a week on Wednesdays at between 4 and 7 in the morning.
Wow.
There was some intense shit.
And have you been back and forth from Belgrade to Berlin during all this, or you've been in Berlin the whole time?
No, I was in Belgrade during that time.
Okay.
I was in Belgrade during that whole time. And it was mentally very challenging. And it's really crazy because then everyone would rush to the supermarket to, finish with their, like, Fridays in the afternoon, the supermarkets were super full because everyone knew they have to buy food for the next 3 or 4 days. And I don't think it was very rational to make this kind of...
It's funny,
like it makes much sense.
For a short.
Also, the public transport didn't work. Only for essential workers. You were not allowed to use the public transport at all. Like, it was all like very, very bad.
Yeah, it seemed like for a short period we kind of had something similar in LA, except it wasn't due to coronavirus. It was because of the riots.
The riots.
The whole city was on lockdown. We weren't allowed to leave our house for what, like a week?
It was like it was a curfew from like I can't remember what time the curfew.
It was 5 p.m. till 6 o'clock in the morning. No one was allowed to leave the house.
Couldn't even go outside.
Wow.
Which I did anyways, and it was the strangest thing to experience driving around Los Angeles with the freeways and the streets dead empty. With the amount of traffic that we usually have here, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I think the only way you could have gotten away with this saying if you were like going to work or driving home from work or something like that. That was like, yeah. But Mo always just breaking the laws, you know.
I had to get some dinner, man.
Order it like Matrix Man.
Tiana, do you see things opening up in Serbia and before the end of the year, or is it going to be the middle of next year? I mean, obviously, Exit Festival was a huge. I mean, it's a big thing, isn't it, for Serbia? I mean, and it brings a lot of people into the country, generates a lot of money, and to not have that festival must have been a big blow for a lot of locals and for a lot of and the promoters and everyone, I guess.
Well, I mean, it was for the promoters, definitely, but they still had some sort of an event. They did it in the first week of September, I think.
Okay.
It was very limited capacity. It was for like 300 people. And they had the same like stage design, the same production for the dance arena as if there was 25,000 people, which is the usual capacity of this one stage.
But how many people actually go to what's the capacity for the whole festival? I mean, it's huge, right? It's
45 or 50,000.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, it's really big. And then the dance arena only, like the DJ stage is, I think 25,000 or maybe 30. I'm not sure, maybe 20, something between 30,000. But it was a bit weird to see that, like to be in that like same space with 300 people, and it was like it was a socially distanced event. So you would have like small groups of people, a group of friends in one cage, you know, and then another, like everyone was divided in small groups, and it was really, really weird. So they managed to do some sort of an event and a huge production, and they streamed it, and they teamed up with UN World Food Program. So something happened, something kind of happened. But I think, I mean, Exit has a lot of support. Exit has a lot of public support, and they are really huge. And they have also sponsorships, and they have their image, they have their name, they have their tradition. I don't think it's going to be that hard for them. It is much harder for smaller clubs, for smaller venues.
Yeah.
And smaller promoters and smaller festivals.
And I guess this is something, I mean, that's not going to restart until probably maybe the spring of next year at the earliest, right? As far as small clubs in Serbia, or
I don't know. I mean, I really wish I knew. I wish I could tell the future. But I'm not a fortune teller, so I can't tell you. I mean, obviously, whatever predictions we make, they can be wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, you've in the last few months, you've played at Oxy Garden, and you've played at the Berghain Garden,
and I played Exit Festival. The deconstructed version of Exit Festival.
Yeah, but you played it. You've played at I mean, have you played at the new Grease Mirror or at Elsa? But you played but you still played at two of the actually clubs that are still going in Berlin
or in the world.
In the world. How was Berghain? Because I've not actually been to the garden during the summer. I've not had a chance, but
it was It wasn't much different than the usual Berghain Garden party. What I noticed is that people here in Berlin are very used to long parties, so
Yeah.
it's kind of short. And then there are all these rules, and no one is quite sure what the rules are and what they're allowed to do, where and when they have to wear a mask, where and when they're allowed to take it off. So you can notice that people are not like 100% relaxed
Yeah.
as they would normally be. So it takes a bit longer for everyone to, pick it up. But other than that, it's also, I had the feeling it's a slightly different crowd because it's more about, people who are really devoted and they want to arrive there on time, maybe like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours early
Yeah.
to stand in the line and get in, because more or less like once you're in, you're not leaving because there is no way to get back in, and it's very limited capacity. So if you come late, you might not be able to get in at all, no matter how long you wait, and the party is short anyways. So I think this dynamics that creates a slightly different crowd.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in Berlin, I mean, there's very little techno tourism at the moment, so there's less people flying in. And of course, like Bergheim would have like 3,000 or more people through the doors throughout the weekend, and now, as you said, people have to register. It's probably locals rather than foreigners. Or
I wouldn't say, actually, for me, the crowd looked more touristy than ever.
really?
Yeah. I think
Wow.
I think the locals are kind of spoiled,
Okay.
they want to come on Sunday night,
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's all local people that just never really get to go to Berghain, and now is their chance.
I don't know
True
who
as
they
well.
are. I don't know who they are, but I thank them for being there.
Yeah.
And are they doing, you said you have to register, but are they doing testing before you get into the party or not at all? No.
Not
No,
yet.
and also the registration thing is like some clubs have the QR code that you need to scan, and then it opens like an email, and then you just send your contact details via email. And in other clubs, you write down the name, which is what you do when you get in a restaurant here as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think the thing is as well. It's all been depending on the weather, and I mean, in the last few days, I mean, literally, it's like winter here, so I don't think there'll be many parties going on. I don't know. I don't know if Chris can add anything to that. I mean, if he's been following the news.
I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not very optimistic, to be honest. I'm actually
No.
quite, my predictions are quite bleak.
Yeah, I agree to you because I didn't really watch any news in the last 3 weeks, and I'm diving back into it, and I see lockdowns everywhere and curfews everywhere. So I was trying to find out what's going on. We have literally 500 active cases in Frankfurt right now, and we're a city of 750,000 people, and I really don't even have an opinion anymore of what's going on, and but it just feels very bleak because what is the future? I saw Steve Buck tweeting yesterday. As you notice, I'm back into looking at the tweets. And basically he was saying like, okay, everybody says there's not going to be any clubs before there's a vaccine. So what if there is not a vaccine? Like, will we never have any clubs anymore? What is going on? I mean, just quickly, like when we were back in March, no one knew what this virus was. So also my attitude was like, stay the fuck home, like just not go outside. Like I stay home. Everybody should stay home because we don't know if you get the virus and you lose arms and legs, or you turn blind. You had no idea. Now we kind of have a pretty good idea of what's going on, yet somehow it's not helping. It's like it's still the same thing, and it's I can't even make up my mind. Is it really bad now? Is it not? Tiana, you tweeted, I think 2 days ago, it's like we have vaccines for flus, and we still get the flu. I think wasn't that a reaction to Steve?
That was my reply because Benny Rodriguez posted something from the Dutch news where someone in Holland said that there's no clubs until the vaccine comes out, and then Steve tweeted something, and then I replied, and yeah, I mean that's also the confusion that I have. Everyone is pretending like they still have exactly the same knowledge, or they have no knowledge, as it was the case in March. And for 7 months now, all the money in the world and all the power and all the focus has been on this virus and like researching this virus. And how come that we didn't come to different solutions?
Yeah.
Now that we have more knowledge, like in March we had no idea, and now there are certain statistics, there are numbers, you can calculate things. We also know that you can get a virus if you touch the same surface that the infected person has touched, or things like that. And according to these new findings, maybe we can adjust the rules. But at the same time, it seems weird that it's as if all these measures are really only addressed to fun things and cultural things. It's about socializing, culture, music events, and then all the shopping malls are still open. And my friend from Paris told me that the Disneyland Paris was open until last week, and they had 25,000 people, kids and their parents every weekend, and that's fine. Or like the other day, I was in a bus here in Berlin. The bus was packed like this, and that's all fine.
Yeah.
Like when you need to have a concert or a party or celebrate your birthday at home, you're not allowed to. I don't understand.
It really feels like that the whole mankind completely failed to react properly to this pandemic, and still failing at it. I mean, I understand that maybe some, especially of those nightclubs and entertainment industries, have to be shut or limited for a while. But then at least have some sort of plan to help these scenes financially or anything like that. And it just puzzles me that we're still not a step further.
But also, like, do they really need to? Do they have to be shut down? That's also my question.
Well, that is a good question, because I just saw yesterday. I watched a video, with a famous German virologist, and he was basically saying, old people are way more affected, but we cannot tell old people to stay home. That would be barbaric. And I was like, but so we tell everyone to stay home? That's better than, or what? Like, I'm sorry for old people, but I just don't get it. Like, no one.
I don't seem to be as surprised as you guys are that the entertainment industry is the one that's held back. At the end of the day, anything that's about personal pleasure, or even in our case, in terms of dance music being a little bit more on the hedonistic side, it seems like the least of priority to government officials to open up before businesses and working and things that puts food in your mouth and eating and things that provide the absolute necessities of life. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to defend that we should remain closed. That's not my point. My point is I'm just not surprised that the music industry, that nightclubs, that any of this stuff is part of the final stage of opening.
I mean, to be honest, I'm also not surprised that the civilization didn't respond well to this crisis. I'm not surprised at all. But actually, I'm like, what puzzles me is like, okay, you have some on a like worldwide level, on a global level, you have some millions of people who are employed in tourism, entertainment industry. You have airlines, you have hotels, you have the whole music industry, the whole events industry, the whole film industry, all of that. So if all of these people stop making money, they won't be able, if I don't make money for another year or so, I won't be able to buy this fancy chocolate,
Right.
or chocolate at all.
Right.
And there goes the chocolate producer, because there's millions of people like me who won't be able, if I don't make money for another year, I won't be able, to afford new clothes. And there goes the clothes industry.
Yeah.
So
And
it's not like,
sometimes
That's a good point. But I'll say this much: this is not a non-standard thing. When you're in high school, or when you talk to any kind of parents who are strict on what their kids do for a living, I would say that the largest majority of the time you're told by your elders to pick a career in a world that's an essential thing. That's why most kids are pushed to be lawyers or doctors or something standard. Anytime any of us pick a job in the arts, in entertainment of any level, we're always taking a career in a risk situation. And it kind of just comes with you're just kind of, it comes with the territory that if you work in the entertainment industry, if there's a, I don't know, a hurricane or a typhoon or something like that, you're going to be, affected by it. Natural disasters, pandemics, fall of the economy, anything. The first people that usually get hurt are non-essential survival careers.
I'm totally, I get it, and I agree with you. We all live with this risk of being in the music world.
Yeah.
But what I don't like about the whole thing is that the measures are like, they often make no sense, and there's no logic, and they're quite schizophrenic. For example, like you asked me what the situation is in Serbia right now, and if the clubs are open or not. The funny thing is that, like, the Serbian authorities brought exactly the same new measures as Germany has on exactly the same day. So, this Saturday, they announced in Serbia that everything needs to close at 11 and blah, blah, exactly the same as Germany. And these are two completely different countries. Serbia has like 7 million people living there. Germany has 80 million people.
Yeah.
The numbers of infected cases, the numbers of people in hospital, the number of deceased people are completely different between these two countries. And I don't understand why would these two countries have exactly the same measures if the whole situation is not the same.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. I also don't understand how is it okay to squeeze in a bus, or to squeeze in like Disneyland, or to squeeze in, I mean, since I arrived here in Berlin, I have the feeling like there's more people in the supermarkets than I've ever seen before. And how is it possible that like all of these other activities are okay to perform with a mask, and it's not okay to spend like an hour on a concert?
Yeah.
So why are masks protective in public transportation, and they are not protective on a concert? That's my question.
I think no one has an answer, and I think I don't understand why we're only always asking just one side of the spectrum. It seems like virologists have the say now, but business people don't have anything to say. We don't know what the long-term effects is of a COVID infection. You don't know what it does to your body, but we also don't know what it does to the economy, the long-term effects, especially in our entertainment industry. And talking about essential business, it's like, isn't entertainment industry also essential from a certain point on? Because we've seen what's going on in the streets when there's no clubs, no bars to go to. People will do their own thing. They will do it illegally. And then there's absolutely no tracing possible, absolutely nothing possible in that sense. And that's what I don't understand. It's not like, that's, I think, why there's so much confusion, because no government really has an idea of who to ask. If you ask a doctor, he obviously will tell you, oh, everybody needs to stay home. Everybody needs to stay home. Oh, okay, let's listen to the doctor. Everybody stays home. And what's the business guy saying? Oh, our business, the world economy is going in the drain. Everybody should go out and shop. Oh, all right. And it's just, ugh.
It sounds like everyone's the center of their own universe, and everything just kind of revolves around them. And
it's kind of,
we're wondering what you guys out there think. So please feel free to put on in some comments here, wherever you're watching this. Just put in some comments. We're reading them one way or the other.
But it's kind of interesting how in the U.S. Coronavirus has become so politicized now with the election coming up. And there's one way to lean where people are saying like, yeah, fuck the mask, we don't care, and other people are like, dude, you got to wear a mask. But we have a country like Europe, a country, like you have an area like Europe, is just like, you guys are kind of going through the same thing, but maybe it's not so politicized, I don't think, because
it is.
It is.
Not as much, maybe.
In Serbia, it's definitely politicized. I know a lot of countries where it is politicized, and I think every government, in France, it's definitely politicized, because during the lockdown in France, there were so many like laws that were changed that kind of like seized the public attention. And I think each country will and is using this opportunity to politicize it, and just to gain some sort of like political or personal interest out of this situation. That's universal everywhere.
But like, let's say in Germany, what would be the political gain?
I'm not 100% familiar in like German political situation, but I would look into the elections, and if
Are there elections coming up soon?
And if there are certain like major positions to be changed. And as far as I know, Angela Merkel is about to retire soon, so maybe it's some sort of a game around that. But I don't know. Like I don't want to talk about Germany, because I don't know. I wouldn't know enough.
Right.
On the other hand, we shouldn't forget that some people are making a lot of profit out of this crisis.
That's true.
You have people like, the tech moguls like Jeff Bezos, who earned the same amount of money in a span of 20 years, and then he tripled that in a span of 6 months.
Exactly. I mean, you guys have Black Friday coming, Thanksgiving. I mean, I'm sure Jeff is hoping for lockdown, so that everyone has to go on Amazon.
Well,
right?
They did a Amazon Prime Day yesterday and today, which was supposed to be back in July.
I was about to say that right now. It was just Amazon Prime Day,
and it's 2 days now. It used to be 1 day.
So what I want to say, like sometimes the political interest is not so obvious if you're reading the political news, or if you're following politicians. Sometimes the political interest is on the side of people who are actually way more powerful than individual politicians or countries. Like Jeff Bezos is more powerful than many countries in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so much more money. Because would they say that like these like billionaires grew, I don't know how many billions of dollars just within a few months of the beginning of the lockdown? Like hundreds of billions. It's insane.
The weed industry is blown up here in California because of this pandemic.
Oh, it hasn't all burnt down? Didn't it?
Everyone in California got high.
Hey man, they grow weed indoors here, so
yeah, of course.
I mean, the clinics around here are selling more weed than anybody else has sold in a long time.
Wow.
I guess there's always a way to profit off other people's suffering.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, any kind of crisis is always a chance for profit.
Someone's going to profit.
But do you not think it's a way of keeping the population sedated with the weed? What's your view on?
Man, the kind of weed that they sell these days is not about sedation. That shit.
I mean, that's why you moved to California, Chris, wasn't it?
Dude, please sedate me. I mean, it would be a perfect moment to legalize weed in Germany now, wouldn't it?
All I know is that the stuff they sell out here gives me nothing but anxiety and pure paranoia. So it's just not working. I'm not sedated. I'm usually freaking the fuck out when I smoke anything from California.
Yeah, the last time I had some edibles or even smoked, it just gave me just severe anxiety. I just can't do it. Yeah. Too strong for me. Even when people tell me you're doing the wrong stuff, it's like, nope, it all just gives me anxiety, man.
Yeah, you get that all the time. It's like, oh, you don't smoke the sativa, man. You gotta do the. You're like, same shit.
Same thing, dude.
Didn't mean to sway off topic, but
beer is good. What sedates me.
Cheers.
What does that beer can say?
Mhm.
Oh, it looks like it says "Go Die," but it says "Goody." It's Goody.
It looked like it said "Go Die." I was like, what?
I know.
What is this,
Like-
man?
I like it though. It's Goody pills. It looks like it says "Go Die."
So
They know what
Tiana,
they know what they were doing.
have you been since you've not been DJing so much, are you still buying music? You still into it as much? Because even though you're not be able to play it, I mean, I saw your track
Or
list
doing
for
live
Rinse
streams?
FM. Huh?
Or doing live streams.
You know, doing like, I mean, yeah, that kind of thing. But I mean, are you
Or
still
recording music videos illegally.
Which music videos? I wish I had a chance. No one makes music videos anymore.
True again, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I do. The thing is, I make music videos and nobody cares. That's so, it just falls on dead ears.
Send it over.
I will.
I might make a huge revival as a TV star again.
I'm all about that.
Well, I have my Rinse show every month. I do it once a month, and it's 2 hours long, and I don't have guests. So I need to provide 2 hours of music every month, and it's always a combination of promos and then some new music that I bought and some old records that I play. And actually, I bought a few albums in the last week. So,
but yeah, do you feel that you have more time now to actually listen to stuff, and actually sort of get into the music rather than just moving on to the next thing? I mean,
yeah, sorry, I didn't have dinner, so I'm eating this chocolate here.
It's all good.
Yeah, actually, because my place in Belgrade is quite noisy, I don't always have a peace of mind there, and it was stressful there anyways. But since I arrived here, I've been listening to so much music with my full attention, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I kind of like remember the days when I was a teenager or in my early 20s, when there were no social networks and internet. So I had this endless time to listen to one album like really carefully, and then listen to it again, and then listen to it again. I haven't done that in a long time, and that's what I've been doing lately. So yeah, I like it. And then also like in Belgrade during lockdown, when we had to stay in for days, I was going through my record collection because I have so many records that I was buying while I was on the road, and I never had time to check them out. I mean, one time I came back from India with a bunch of records with Indian disco, Indian music, with some I bought some rare, expensive Indian records. I never listened to them.
Amazing.
Yeah, I have stuff like that I was able to finally hear.
An Indian disco stream soon.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
That's
Maybe you can join in when we do the 24 hours DJs and Beers stream, which I heard got a lot of traction lately.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, did it?
Yeah.
The idea, we have this idea of doing this for 24 hours, and I think at some point we need to.
Maybe you could pitch this to Electronic Beats and do like a Bollywood B-sides.
Yeah.
That's a good.
I'll see what I can do.
Bollywood B-sides?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but are you planning to do like 25 hours of talking or play like DJ?
I hope not talking.
I think after 2 hours, it's just anything.
Yeah.
Maybe just like staring at each other.
I support that. I love the non-content idea. There was this amazing experiment years ago. It was almost 20 years ago on MTV when they kept Courtney Love awake for 24 or maybe like 48 hours. So she was in this studio with the audience awake, like staying awake, and they would bring different actors and musicians and people to talk to her. And after some hours, it was just bonkers. It was really like completely insane. And I actually did a 12-hour stream. When the lockdown started in Belgrade, I realized that there's a lot of like initiatives going on globally, and that people are, trying to somehow raise funds to help each other. And I could see that in Belgrade, no one actually like did that, because people there are already, depressed about the whole economic situation or social situation. So when something like this happens, it's kind of like almost normal. So I thought, I had this idea, and I did it. I did a 12-hour long stream. It was just me playing for 12 hours. And we collected funds for people who are employed in drugstore club in Serbia.
Right.
So it's all the bar people and all the technicians and the security guys and everyone who would normally get their salary, but now they don't, because we don't have like the program, like the scheme that they have here in Germany, where everyone is on some sort of like shorts, or I don't quite understand how it works here, but as much as I did understand, like here in Germany, people who are employed in clubs, they still get paid. They didn't lose their jobs.
Kurzarbeitergeld.
Yeah, that thing. Like in Belgrade, no one takes care of you, or in Serbia. So yeah, we raised funds, and it was cool. So I think it's always good. Like all these like long forms are great, because after a certain number of hours, you're just lost, and then the content becomes a bit more psychedelic.
I wonder, did you what was your longest DJ gig you played in front of an audience ever, kind of? Because my question would be, did you find it easier to play a long stream, or did you find it easier to play long in front of an audience? Because I kind of learned that I end up doing these weirdly long streams because I can't find an end. But I found it was so, I don't know. I was probably getting less distracted by people because I was alone, and you just end up playing longer and longer. You don't really think too much about like people in the audience and what to do and what to play. So it was, for me personally, it was easier to play streams longer than actual sets in front of people. How was it for you?
For me, it was obviously a very different experience, but I found it harder than playing in front of the people. I did zone out after a few hours. I think like the first 5 or 6 hours, I was kind of focused, but I already arrived tired to that stream because there was a lot of work, like a lot of preparation for the whole thing. So I like didn't sleep for days. But after like 5 or 6 hours, I totally like zoned out. And the last 2 hours are just like, I was in some sort of
Hollywood B-sides,
like half awake state of mind. But I'm notorious for long sets. Actually, I built my reputation as a DJ in Belgrade playing long sets. So for me, I would usually play like all-nighters in Belgrade. So that would mean at least 8 hours. And I was always the one who would play for hours, even if there's like 2 people on the dance floor. And I would play for another 3 hours just for those 2 people. Like, I never knew how to really stop. They would always have to, tell me to stop.
But Chris, what's the longest set you've ever done in front of an audience?
I think it was 16 hours at Berghain.
Wow, okay.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd have to say Berghain would have been our longest sets as well for me.
That's the one I can remember, basically.
Yeah,
but
for me,
yeah.
I was going to think, for me, it was 13 hours at Panorama Bar. I started on, I think, 11 o'clock on Sunday night and finished at 1 p.m. on Monday. It was just
Here in my chat, BS was saying like, but aren't the people give you energy while playing? That's what everyone says in interviews. Oh yeah. Of course, people are giving you energy, but people also give you certain ideas of expectations, or I'm not sure how I could frame that any better.
But Chris,
your thinking is a little different, if you're completely alone and you're playing. I mean, I used to do a lot of radio too, and I used to love it because you're so independent of reactions in a way, and you just keep going and you just keep going.
But you're Chris, when you do your streams, you're very connected with your audience because you're following the comments, right? And you're
Right.
writing people, and you always have your your repeat core crew that's always there, right? I mean, which makes
That is to shout out to them, the Alone Together community. But it's
that's
not
great.
it's not that they influence me musically, you know. It's more like you're basically chatting with people, or let's say I rather read the comments. Sometimes I get to answer a little bit, but you're not like changing your music direction because you notice the audience might want to have it a little harder or a little softer, you know, within your means.
But do you think, I mean, maybe that's maybe in the future when you can, maybe if you're doing the same thing but with a virtual audience, where you can maybe see if the crowd's diminishing and there's only like 5 people online, then maybe you'll play something a little bit slower, or, you know, do you know what I'm saying?
So you're actually suggesting that in the future we will be able to have a virtual audience that has some sort of a reaction, you know, that the algorithm or like the program will advance that much that they can react in the same way that the normal audience would have.
Probably. And also you'll be able to have fake audiences as well. People probably will be able to buy fake audiences to fill the room, to make it look
Don't they already do that in the VR
did
world?
any of you guys have any of you guys noticed? I don't know. I know not everybody watches like American basketball, but the championships were just going on. The LA Lakers won, and around the crowd of the entire arena, they had LED screens where all the fans were like had their faces in front of
like
the
avatars.
Yeah, and they were just putting their faces all over the screens going around, and everybody was screaming. They're pumping audio.
They pump audio. Yeah, they're pumping crowd noise into the games.
Yeah, from the people
even in the game, so the basketball players or baseball players can hear the crowd, like as if there's people in the stands. Like it helps.
Maybe us DJs should do that too in the streams now. You know, I'm gonna have a button where I hit like, hey.
We're thinking about it, but I think unfortunately this will be the future, and that's why I mentioned.
Oh my God!
That's why I mentioned all the tech people who are, you know, earning more and more and more. Like there's so many people developing all these softwares, and you know, when you have a virtual event, the costs are much smaller, so you don't have to pay for the venue, you don't need to pay for the technicians, you don't need to pay for the light, and you can sell as many tickets as possible. You know, you can sell endless amounts of tickets. So I think this is where we are heading to, and that's one of the reasons I'm not very happy that everyone is agreeing to this like Matrix style parties.
But I mean, even last year, I remember arriving in Porto or in Lisbon. I think it was Porto, and the promoter telling me that they were streaming Tomorrowland's live to a venue in Porto, so people didn't have to travel to Belgium. And I guess that's already this is like the future, where you don't actually have to, even if things come back, you don't actually have to go to the main event. You can go to a venue wherever it is in the world, and they stream the DJs to you, you know?
Well, that's essentially like when the World Cups, soccer World Cups are happening, and they have these big screenings in cities. But isn't that missing one side? You know what I mean? I mean, with a sports event, I can understand because the team is playing against each other. But with entertainment, like what we do or what bands do, there's a certain connection you have with the crowd. And if you have the crowd only one side, like the crowd is not watching you, or you have a completely different crowd in front of you, it's like it's like fake connection somehow.
I mean, I remember going to the Brighton Music Festival, and I think it was where Future Sound of London did their ISDN concert, and it was just the worst thing ever. These big screens, you know, in Brighton show, and obviously they're just sitting in their studio, and it was so weird, you know.
It's funny, Matt, is I was trying to Google that because I couldn't remember who it was who tried to do that, and I was looking on Google like, who was the first person, and then you just said their name. So and
I mean, it was such a big thing, but it was such It was called ISDN. It was such a big thing.
There was broadcast protocol or something, right?
It's not fraudulent in a way, but it was so weird. These guys just sitting in their studio, not doing anything, and then all these people going to a concert.
But they had a lot of technical problems with the show.
Yeah, it was terrible. I mean,
for some reason, I thought it was Orbital in my head, and I was like, no, it's not Orbital. Who was it? But thanks for bringing it up. Anyway.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat could clarify to me what ISDN was standing for and what was it again? It's so long ago. I remember it was like the next step of analog telephone or something like this, right?
Integrated Services Digital Network.
There you go.
Oh, but let's ask Mo. Mo, explain to us, please.
Don't ask me. I just asked Google. It's right there.
He's got Google in front of his computer, dude.
Okay, talking about the great things of the internet, right? You Google it right away. Yeah. The positive sides.
I think the worst thing about these virtual events is not about what we as performers are experiencing. It's just actually taking the essence of the whole experience out of it. And it's not about us if we have the crowd in front of us or not. It's more about the crowd's experience and what people at the dance floor or on a concert are experiencing. That's the problem, because the whole idea is to connect, to create this kind of like collective body, this collective experience. And especially with dance music or electronic music, it's about, transcending. It's about like the collective hypnotic experience that you cannot have if you're sitting in front of your computer at home. And it is about being in a large group of people where everyone feels exactly the same frequencies going through their bodies. And it is something that you can never have at home.
So that's a good point, but this brings me to what I was thinking is like, okay, so obviously we have this experience of DJing in clubs or festivals in front of people, feeling the vibe, feeling the energy, but then you
still
have
remember
that? I kind of, it lingers in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But saying that, you have this whole new generation that's growing up, that's never been a part of this, where they literally consume their music at home. They don't go out. And maybe that's the new generation that it's going to be pushing this whole virtual DJing forward. Do you know what I mean?
I hope not.
I know. I'm just saying, like, that's kind of what it might be.
I think everyone experiences music differently. I think what Tihana said about it being like a hypnotic experience, I think that's what it should be. I think that's what
maybe that's the old way. Maybe that's the old way.
I think any of us who've ever experienced that kind of transcending feeling on the dance floor, that's the kind of experience we want to provide to people when we play. I mean, that's what their ultimate goal is. That's what you're shooting for. But I think everyone experiences it completely different. And there are a lot of people who don't have the privileges that we have to actually reach that. So David makes a good point too, but it reminds me of, I remember last time I was in Japan, one of the promoters in Tokyo was telling me that all the clubs are having such a hard time keeping the clubs open because all of the young generation aren't going out to parties anymore. The young generation don't want to leave their house. The young generations are staying home and streaming stuff and experiencing music in a different way. They don't hold that kind of personal interaction between individuals on a pedestal as high as maybe we do. And they consider our way a little bit more old school. So, I mean,
they're also far more, I think, especially in Japan, I mean, they're far more conservative as well, because I think in the 80s and 90s, there was such an economic boom in this country where they literally, people had so much money. These days, the kids are they're worried about their parents, their grandparents. They're far more conservative. But I just wanted to say the one thing as well, a lot of people, you've got to remember, who go to clubs, they're not into their music. They're into just connecting with people, whether it's sex, drugs. There's so many other factors that come into play why people go to clubs. I mean, we see this in Berlin, I think even at Berghain, where there's a lot of parties like Snacks where the music is definitely secondary and it's just about hooking up, so there's
and social media status as well on top of that,
Like the need to connect with someone on whatever level. Is it like getting drunk together or having a weird conversation which would not happen under different circumstances, or hooking up with someone, flirting, or like having a transcendent experience through music. I think all of these are human needs.
Yeah.
I know, but my point was that
they
maybe
are as
that's the old way.
No, but these needs are as old as time.
Yeah.
Same as humans have needs for hugs. You
Yeah.
know, you need to hug someone. It builds your immunity, and socializing also builds your immunity. Singing and dancing also builds your immunity. Now that we're talking about viruses and health issues, but these are like biological needs, and it's going to be. I think if you take that away from people, it will have certain consequences on a larger scale in society. I wonder what that would be, you know, because people need to channel this kind of energy somewhere. And if they don't get the opportunity to channel it, what happens then? How do you compensate?
And
But-
here we go, and having more and more mental problems in the
Yeah,
society.
that's what I was just gonna say. All
We
these
all
mental
need
issues.
hugs. We all need hugs. You're totally right. I mean, we're all in need of hugs, right?
I think Philip
know.
K. Dick tried to explore this whole kind of thought process through Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, with whether or not human interaction was necessary, or did we just interact with droids to get our, you know,
To get interaction.
yeah, just to fulfill our basic needs of human interaction.
Find out soon.
Well, I mean, technically, the phone isn't that what the phone is?
Dopamine delivering.
That's all it is. Even though it's just a device. It's just a device, and you get, just like Chris was saying earlier, you get that, you send that tweet, and you get that dopamine. We're like, oh, somebody commented, somebody liked my tweet, and you're literally not. I mean, you're interacting with a human, but it's through a device. So, in that point, it could be a fucking robot you're interacting with, and you're fine, right?
Maybe for you, man. I need
I'm
a
just
hug.
saying. I'm not saying that that's the way I want it to be.
Give me a hug, man. I want a hug.
Okay, put it in a
All right,
different
Bo, I'll be at your
context.
house in 20 minutes.
Put it in a different context. Have a robot on Android to brew your beer. What's the outcome? How is the beer going to taste like? It's probably going to taste
It'll probably be fine, but that doesn't
perfect.
mean it's going to be.
But it's missing
great.
the human element, you know?
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think we should not neglect that or underestimate that one.
No. There's obviously there's a human interaction. There's a human feeling to things. Same with music. You can get these AI robots or whatever you call them to create music based on just getting data from music and make like the perfect song. But is it going to be the perfect song? It's not going to be the perfect song because there's the human emotion that's going to be missing from it. Yeah, we got deep pretty fast.
Cheers.
No superficial conversations here.
It's just casual conversation.
When the beer starts flowing, man, we start talking about.
John, do you have any more gigs booked? Anything coming up?
No, actually, I just have some offers for streams.
Okay.
Is there still the same controversy going on out there? Are still people killing each other online? Don't play anywhere. Go and play. If you're playing, I'm gonna kill you online. Whatever. Is that still going on? I missed.
I think you mean cancel, not kill.
Yeah,
Sorry, cancel culture. Is that still a thing? Is that still a thing, or did they all get tired of it?
I think now people are more worried about these grants and blah 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 and where the money's going to and all this kind of stuff. And
well, that's the UK. That's the that's UK focus because they're getting grants. And there are people who didn't.
I think worldwide, I think the problem is that if the people we need to save are the landlords, the people that own the venues, you know, rather than maybe even the promoters, because if we lose these spaces in the cities and they become flats, become apartments or whatever, then, you know, this is going to become a real problem, you know. And all these people that have spent all their lives building these clubs or these event spaces that are used for all kinds of things, you know, whether it's live gigs or, electronic events or whatever. If we lose these in the cities, if things can't reopen in the next year, then that's going to be a problem,
That's true.
Yeah, that should for me, that should be the focus, saving the spaces, the venues, because promoters are always going to be there. The kid, and if the spaces are there, then the kids or the young guys or young girls who want to do an event, at least they have somewhere to do these things. That's
Well, you mentioned before that maybe the young generation doesn't even want to go out anymore. But so young generation, in case you're watching, can you tell us, do you still want to go out? Because the thing is, like Alessandro Navarro here posted, what about the sound systems, the clap atmosphere, the crowd excitement, and even seeing how some people feel the music and express themselves? I think that's something absolutely essential that we will, and that's what Tiana said. Like it's as old as time, that we have this need for it, that we have the need to gather, to party, to get together. That will not be eradicated in a year of lockdown, will it? I mean, I'm still positive, right?
No, it won't.
No.
A little?
But there'll certainly be a market for everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
everyone's doing the streams. Now they're finding a way to monetize from doing these streams, and DJs will figure out how to monetize from doing the streams. There will be online promoters paying DJs, and it's going to be probably just going to be a I hate to say this stupid phrase, the new normal. I know. I hate to say it.
Date me.
I bet you there's a huge spike now in sub pack sales. If you don't want to feel the vibration,
I was going to say, get a gaming chair.
Just get a little sub pack, some VR goggles.
Dude,
turn on your Zoom chat. You could socialize with your friends on Zoom. Feel the vibration from your sub pack.
If you go on Amazon,
a little ketamine, a little coke, a little weed. Everything's inside. I mean, got everything you need.
But dude, if you go on Amazon and you look for webcams, like a lot of them are sold out. A lot of microphones are sold out.
Everything's sold out for streaming services.
Yeah. What does that mean? What does that tell you?
It means that most companies are picking up, and it's not even just dance music. It's funny how we just continuously focus all of our energy on dance music. You know how many country bands, blues performers, rock bands, hip hop artists are all blowing up on the streaming services too. It's just music in general. It's home entertainment. There's even people doing puppet shows from home. There's actors and actresses are doing plays and monologues, and the streaming service is kind of grown across all forms of arts.
But that crosses over to our music.
Everyone is doing podcasts. Even like Selena Gomez has her own podcast now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
every comedian's got a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every DJ has a podcast.
We have a show, but nobody knows. But here's just 5 androids sitting, driven by a hugely advanced algorithm, talking to each other. We're not real.
That would be nice.
So that means I won't have to be here.
It kind of makes cancel culture non-existent, because then there's just nothing to cancel anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Just to delete.
It's just AI. Yeah. You just delete it and it'll be Chris will be magically another DJ.
Yeah, there are no additional values. Like there's no moral. There's like with AI, all these values would be gone.
Exactly, and this is what I find so fascinating. Our technological evolution is actually going towards something like this, but judging by just us talking about it, nobody really wants this. It's like, what was the film with Bruce Willis where everybody was just sitting at home and they sent their robots out? Anyone in the chat can tell me, please. Anyone knows that movie? Remember that movie?
Which one? Say it again.
Thanks for listening, Mo.
Sorry, I just
the one with Bruce Willis where everybody was just like fat, sitting at home in a big chair and just controlling their androids, which were good.
I think that was WALL-E, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's WALL-E.
What? No, it's with Bruce Willis. It's a crime movie.
Man, all I know about Bruce Willis is Die Hard, and that's all you need to know.
Oh, guys. Please, someone help me here. It's not WALL-E.
But Wall-E
No.
essentially was the same thing, right? It was all
Yeah.
the humans are.
I
Yeah, they
literally
had-
just watched that last week. It's an amazing movie.
yeah. No, nobody can think of it.
I
It's
think
it's
no one actually ever asks a general population what kind of future do they want. The future just happens. Like no one, like if someone would have asked us 20 or 30 years ago, okay, the movie's called The Surrogates.
I'm not entirely sure because I would not know the German, the English.
Surrogates.
Like if someone would have asked us 30 years ago if this is the future that we would want to be in, like that you meet your friends on Zoom and not in real life, and that you spend like 10 hours a day like looking at a small screen, like completely enslaved by it, would you say yes? You would probably say no, but it happened anyways, and you live
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't think we have a say on these things.
No.
And these are like slow processes, like very slow, so that, people adapt. And that's also part of, human development, I guess.
Or undevelopment, I think, or kind of reverse development.
In a futuristic world, people live within the safety of their homes while the robotic surrogates carry on with the day-to-day chores.
Those are surrogates.
Like Avatar.
That's surrogates. It is actually that movie is surrogates. Thanks everyone in the chat. And
30 years ago, the only future I wanted was Back to the Future. Hoverboards, flying cars, Cafe 80s.
Yes.
That's my future.
Yeah.
That's
Cafe 80s. Max Headroom.
Max Headroom, Michael Jackson serving me a soda. That's all I wanted out of life, man.
Well, I mean, you got to LA, you got the Blade Runner 2019, but you got the 2049 version, didn't you, this year?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. That video in San Francisco was crazy.
Oh well.
Actually, I never, now that you mentioned like what kind of future you wanted, I never wanted any kind of like different future. I always wanted things to stay the same as they are if they're okay. Why do we have to change things all the time?
Interesting, isn't it? But still there's like development going on. Why?
That comes back to my point.
Exactly.
Is that we're so used to the old way that the new way sounds crazy. So like maybe this is the new way. Maybe DJing from home and nobody going out anymore is the new way for the younger people. And to us, it sounds crazy. I know. I'm just saying that's, you got to think of it that way as well.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe
it's the same with look at online dating. If you would have done that 20 years ago, people would be like, are you crazy? You mean you're not going to go out and meet someone? Now it's become, you can literally just swipe on the phone and just be like, I don't like her. I don't like her. I don't like, you know what I mean? And it's normal. It's normal now. 20 years ago, people would think you're crazy.
It's going to bite our ass at some point.
Maybe it will. Maybe it's just going to be normal. And we're just going, oh yeah, I remember the old days when we used to go to a club and listen to music.
Oh, stop saying that.
I know. I'm just saying
the new normal. The new normal.
The new normal, man.
Yeah, but talking about this, I agree with Matt that actually venues need to be saved. Tiana, how are the venues doing in Belgrade, for example, or in the whole of Serbia? Are there actually any like well-known techno clubs outside of Belgrade? Really, are there? And how are they holding up? Like you just said, there's absolutely no help from the government. Is the scene completely dead in half a year in Serbia? Then the let's say the nightlife scene.
No, it's
is it as dead as everywhere else then?
Not really, because we also had some schizophrenic moments in Serbia. So after this very harsh lockdown that I earlier described earlier, they actually released everything. Because we had elections coming. So in order to hold elections and to have all the rallies and everything and to do the whole pre-election promotion, they had to release everything. So they let everything work. They let everything open without any restrictions. So there was like a month or a month and a half when clubs were open and they were working, and then they closed them again, and then they changed it again, and they could do these daytime events. But what most clubs, I mean, that's I guess a good thing in Serbia is that there are still venues that you can get for cheap. So I guess a lot of a lot of people don't have a very high rent to pay, so they can still somehow pay for it. And then some landlords, some owners of these venues also didn't ask for rents for several months from bar
That's
owners
nice.
and club owners. So yeah, I mean, that's what I know. And I'm talking about Belgrade, and I'm talking about a certain number of venues. I can't tell you, is it like that for all the venues and all the clubs? Because there's so many there, I can't even follow anymore. Outside of Belgrade, to answer your question, unfortunately, there's not much happening. There's this club tunnel in Novi Sad, which has like decent parties, and unfortunately not so much. Actually, even back in the 90s when I was a teenager, and when the scene was just like growing, and when we had the actual, you know, crisis and isolation, there was a scene in every city. Like every town had a small club, and there was a promoter in every city. And I remember sometimes going to Niš, which is like 3 hours ride from Belgrade in like the south of Serbia, because they had a club there which was amazing. And unfortunately it's not happening anymore. And I mean, a lot of young people are leaving these towns because all the opportunities are in Belgrade. So yeah.
Yeah, but kind of the same happened in Germany. I'm not sure if maybe Matt knows a little bit more about the UK, but back in the 90s, early 2000s, a lot of really like tiny villages had pretty good electronic music clubs that were going, and it concentrated then more and more to the bigger cities, and at some point it started to concentrate only in Berlin.
Yeah, well, I was going to say Frankfurt is a prime example of, you know, that used to, for me, that was almost the techno town, the capital of techno. And
what veered it away to Berlin? Like what happened
in Frankfurt?
Yeah, from like how was Frankfurt the big spot for techno in the mid 90s, and then everyone all of a sudden started going to Berlin? What was the reason?
It wasn't all of a sudden. It was a slow migration towards Berlin over a period of maybe 10 years even. And it's just, I mean, a lot of reasons, but I think I would say the main reason was that Frankfurt is a pretty, like, space-wise, a pretty limited city. And it's not really a big city, and it's dominated by banks. So there is a lot of rich people here, and a lot of rich people pay quite high rents. So real estate is expensive, and it was just absolutely not viable to run a club anymore in the center of the city. And there is literally only a center of Frankfurt is itself the center. It's really not big, you know. So there's still Tanzhaus West, obviously. There's little clubs, there's little places, but not as it used to be, obviously. I mean, like, not even right now. It's everything we're saying is just like that's how it was up till January this.
But actually, it didn't happen by accident. I mean, the whole city had a strategy. You know, there was a strategy to build it in a way that it exists right now, to attract artists, to attract these like free thinking people, musicians, and to make it a sort of a hub. And I think it was a strategy on the level of, you know, the city government. Also, they invested in clubs, and the clubs became like formal, proper cultural institutions. You don't have that in other cities in the world, where a club is treated the same as a theater or a museum. You have it in Berlin only.
Let's go back to the good old days when you can play a cool party in Mönchengladbach.
Exactly. In Mönchengladbach, or in Ulm, or in Worms.
Yeah.
What?
In Kassel.
I've played there before.
I've played
these are all places where there were pretty good clubs, really, in the early days. But Tiana is totally right, especially about Berlin, because Berlin was offering so much for it. The rents were cheap. There was so much space for doing events, you know, especially when with the East German part. it couldn't, like, Frankfurt couldn't compete with that offering, you know. So everybody, even in Frankfurt, the people were like, oh, you know what, I'm going to move to Berlin. You know what, my agency is going to go to Berlin. You know what, I'm going to do a studio in Berlin because the rent for my studio is cheaper in Berlin. Yeah.
In defense of small cities in Germany, I played many of them in the last 5 years. So it's not all dead. There are
no, it's not that bad. You're right.
There's still people running clubs in cities all over Germany. Maybe not.
I was going to
say, not as before.
I also think that our rave scene or the techno scene, I mean, of course, it's not new. And in the late 80s, especially in like the UK, I mean, this was a cultural movement, and it's the same as in Belgrade or in Germany, or the same in New York or in LA. It was such a huge thing, you know. It was a huge thing, and I think everywhere you went to, the people wanted to do raves, wanted to do parties, whether it was playing house, techno, you know, whether it was cheesy or whether it was underground. There was definitely a youth movement that's, I think, maybe lacking today, where there's not something. It's not new. It's just part of our culture, and we're just keeping it going, you know. And like we've mentioned before, maybe this isn't the next thing that's going to be maybe there is going to be a evolution into whether it's VR or whatever. But it's pretty old, you know, what we've been doing. It's been around for a long time.
You know? I often dream about a time when I didn't have to fly over to Europe to play gigs constantly all the time. I mean, it'd be nice to actually tour the States and, like, you know, I don't know, play LA, SF, San Diego, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Austin, Houston, whatever, you know, and just be able. But here in the US, you've got a choice of maybe 3 or 4 cities that you could play, and that's not going to last you all year. So you'd have to go over to Europe. But I mean, yeah, maybe Matt's right. All these young kids are just too busy at home with their sub packs and VR glasses. They're just not throwing enough raves, man.
I mean, didn't they do this like massive rave on that Fortnite game?
Yeah.
So, like, you know, if they can just get away with doing that, why even for a DJ, that cuts your travel. You don't have to get on an airplane. You can just be at home sitting on your ass and stream, you know.
Maybe the whole thing will move into the virtual world for a while, and then there will be like a huge comeback as a reaction to that, and we will have an actual movement as you had it in the 80s, or we had it in the 80s, because people will want the real thing. Maybe that's the next, not the next, but the next level. Like everything will die out, and then it will reborn.
It's like going to clubs and parties is like the vinyl of going out, you know. It's like I need to be able to touch it, you know, like this is the real thing.
And you're not a real clubber unless you go out in person, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be the new trend.
Well, that actually, if that happens, it means that clubs will be more exclusive and the tickets will be way more expensive.
Well, then maybe we'll actually go back and coin the word that everyone so loosely turns around and calls everything underground. Maybe things will actually be underground again. Yeah. We'll go back to, like, you know, chain block parties and map points.
I mean, I remember speaking to Francois Kevorkian. His son is involved in gaming, and I mean, he was saying that, you know, of course, like, music is 2D, and of course, a lot of kids, these 3D immersive environments, you know, maybe by spending, you know, all this money on modular or blah blah blah, this isn't the next step. You know, it's going to be something completely different that we're going to be getting into, that maybe we can't even describe, you know.
Are you trying to say that people buying modular, they're wasting their money?
That's my takeaway of it. So
the resale market is great, apparently, I hear.
Yeah.
Oh,
it is.
No knows about that. I think
Mo knows. Mo's got a whole room in the back full of modular stuff that he regrets buying.
Mo, I remember one time I had to drive you to Santa Monica to get some sort of weird module. Do you remember that?
Yeah, now it's sitting in a drawer and it hasn't been used for years and it's lonely.
You still have it?
Who knows?
So, Tiana, in case we're not getting back to DJing, do you have a plan B? Have you thought about like doing something else? Like the British government is suggesting to people that they should retrain into doing, like they have this advertisement of a ballet dancer, and then they write. You probably all seen it, and then it's by the UK government, and then they write like she doesn't know it yet, but maybe her next job is banking or something like this.
No, that wasn't the one.
That's insane. I'm not sure. I'm just paraphrasing it, but it's kind of like that.
It was it was way worse than that.
It was way worse than that.
It said that she would be doing cyber.
Cyber, yeah.
Oh, cyber. Yeah. Oh my god.
Whatever that means.
Getting a surrogate. So did you think about the plan B or something else? Because we are like discussing that a lot of times, sort of.
I don't really have a plan B. Yeah, I mean, I could always go back to my journalist work in some form, I guess. I could do something like that.
But you've interviewed acts and DJs. There's not going to be any acts and DJs anymore. So who are you going to interview? Cyber people?
No, I will keep the memory of the old world alive. that's going to be my mission in the future. I will be like the historian of the world that was.
Wow.
That might be an actual job.
I mean, all jokes aside, that's a possibility. But right now, I mean, the world, the way it transforms, and the whole like Corona new normal and all of that, I dislike it so much that my urge is to actually isolate and somehow escape to a rural environment.
Huh.
My urge is to really like just go and live close to the nature and try to somehow have a healthy life instead of like going into the future and living this cyber life. I would rather actually go way back in the past, even before our times, and just simplify my life. But I'm not quite sure if that's possible, because I didn't save enough to retire.
So we all end up lonely in the woods somehow, alone. I was hoping we can end the show on a higher note.
But like you could
some sort of a commune or an alternative society where
I'm in.
all live in the nature, you know. Maybe that's
Hua, right?
Hmm?
We're all going to move to Hua.
Do not disclose our location. That's a secret location.
I was always kind of thinking of being an astronaut, but I don't know if I meet the minimum requirements.
It might be a little bit too late for that, though. But like people could get away with like, you know, you move to the country and go work on a farm and just like live off that.
That's a legitimate life.
Yeah. You might not make a lot of money, but you're out in nature, you're working with animals and farming, and you're just like,
you'll be less happy, or
people are happy.
Well, you will lose your sense of purpose. That's also life. That's a possibility. I think we're all somehow enslaved by this vision of this urban life and achievements and competition and consumerism, which is okay. I mean, it's fine, of course, but there are other ways of living the life. Yeah. And a lot of people in this world also live different lives.
Yeah. And how many times have you watch a TV show where they literally have TV shows about people that live these simple lives, and people are going like, wow, I can't imagine people can live like this. And vice versa. They look at us and are like, geez, I can't see how people can live like this. And they move from place to place. They build their cabin for the winter, and they hunt for food for the winter, and then that's their life. That's it. And they're simple. There's nothing else.
I had this revelation like 7 years ago, which was actually even before my international DJing took off. That was between the time I stopped working on TV and before I started touring intensely. So I had a kind of a burnout, and I had some like psychosomatic problems, and the whole year was just a disaster. And then a friend of mine invited me to an artist residence in Madeira Island. Madeira is a Portuguese island, but it's pretty much like in the middle of the ocean. It's,
Yeah.
it's geographically closer to Africa, but it's not even in Africa. There are no boats going to Madeira from Africa or Portugal because it's that far. So you can either fly in, or there are these like huge transatlantic cruisers that sometimes go there. But anyways, it's very isolated. It's very far. The nature is stunning, and it's very special. It's different than Portugal. It's not Africa. It's not Europe. It's something in between. And then the trees and the fruits and the vegetables. Everything is kind of weird. It's new. There's nothing like it's so far away that there was nothing that reminds me of the things I know. Just everything looked different around me. And there are only old people living in this island because it's that isolated. So all the young people, they just leave after high school. And I was detached from my life there. And I had all the time in the world. I didn't have to do anything. So I would just wake up early in the morning and like stare at the endless ocean, which was completely silver from this bright sun, like the Equatorian sun. It's very close to the equator. And every day was like very simple. I would stare at the ocean, I would read a book, I would go and buy some food, then we would prepare dinner. We would go to the local farmers market to get fish and to get fruit, and then we would prepare dinner for hours, and then we would eat that dinner for another 2 hours and talk, just a few of us that were in the house. And I really liked it there. And that's when I had this revelation, and I thought, okay, this is also life. This is an okay life. This is a happy life. This is an achievement as well, to be at peace with yourself and with nature. That's also totally fine. And after I realized that, I feel much better about not having a plan B. Real ambitious plan B.
Just hearing that description of what a day was there, to me it sounds like, oh my, I would really like to just even enjoy that for a week. Sounds amazing. Just to get away and disconnect and do that, it just sounds incredible. So to have a whole, like, if someone lives like that, like, I could imagine, granted they may be disconnected from so many other people, but how calm and how like relaxed are people that way?
I mean, there's always some sort of community. You can't live completely isolated. So
Right.
there's a village or a town or, an island. So you connect with people there. But what I discovered there is that, nature is just so exciting. I mean, I'm a city girl. I grew up in a city, just watching buildings and concrete. And I love cities. I love the city life. I love what it offers. But on the other hand, like now we see with this corona crisis, when you take out all the juice from the city, it's not very giving, And when you're in the nature, it's already so exciting that your day can be already completely full, like completely like packed with content, only if you dedicate yourself into sky gazing or just exploring the woods. It's super exciting, and it charges you in a completely different way than the things that charge you when you're in an urban environment.
Right. Wow.
I need to learn how to grow weed.
This is not weed smoking. I don't smoke. So this is pure.
No, but for me, I mean, it sounds amazing what you're telling. Like, I could imagine that very well too. I spend a lot of times in the mountains, and I have that same experience up there, really. But yet, I would occasionally miss, not occasionally, actually constantly miss playing music for people. So that's kind of like a thing that would need to be established in one way or the other.
You can always play music for grandmas and grandpas on the island.
You know what's funny is it's like when you look to the future, like all the grandmas and grandpas are going to be like us, where we were like ravers, and we're like, oh, remember the good old days when you listen to like hard techno and stuff, and just like, yeah, this brings back memories. And you have these like young DJs playing hard
Some
techno.
parts of this conversation sounded like some really, really old people are talking.
That's how the show started already.
To some people, we are. That's the funny part. To some people, we are. We're the boomers, you know.
Yeah.
But actually, like going back to Madeira, I actually even played there. There was
Me too.
there was a party organized by this artist residence that I was part of, and it was on the street in front of a bar. So it was free, everyone was invited. And what I liked about it is that everyone was there, from like the little kids. The main dancer was a kid of maybe like maybe he was 5 years old, and he was like going crazy with the music and moves. And then everyone else interacted, also like older people, grandmas and grandpas, and everyone in between. And there was, nobody was cool there, and no one was better than the other, and everyone interacted between each other, from the smallest kid to the grandma. And that's something you can have in a community like that. You can't have it in an urban, in a club somewhere, in a cool club. So, and actually that experience for me was also very valuable, because then you see the true power of music. If I play the set that I would play in Panorama Bar, and I have an 80-year-old grandma dancing with her grandson who's 5 years old, I'm a great DJ. I'm the best DJ in the world.
True.
Wow. Amazing. Tiana, that was so much wisdom you've delivered for us here tonight. It was really nice, really amazing to hear, really.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Where can we hear you next? When is the next stream? The next stream that you're doing? Virtual stream. Oh, come. You date me.
The 12-hour stream.
When is your next stream? Your 8-hour stream?
It's gonna be less than 8 hours, and I can't really say right now because we're in the process of confirming. But it's going to be, if it happens, it's going to be one of my favorite spots, and actually my dream location that I never experienced in real life. It's one of the famous Yugoslavian modernist monuments.
Wow.
Somewhere in ex-Yugoslavia.
Okay, wow.
So these monuments are really like famous all over internet, especially among people who are following social brutalism and social modernism in architecture. So I guess a lot of techno people would probably know about.
Is it the Spomenic stuff?
Spomenics, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those are incredible.
The word for a monument in my language is Spomenic.
Yeah.
So no one would ever call it the Spomenics.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Obviously, that's how internet picked it up. But yeah, it's one of those. It's gonna.
Yeah, those look insane. Yeah, I've seen the book of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a book as well.
Yeah.
So I hope that's gonna happen.
Oh, cool.
Sweet.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to have you. I hope I run into you into real life at some point. At some festival.
Maybe in a virtual world. I don't know. These days.
Thanks, Tiana. And we'll see you over the weekend, I hope, for dinner, maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're in the same city. Guys, anything coming up for you guys? Any stream, anything?
Nothing.
No? I can say next Tuesday I'm not even sure what I'm doing, but next Tuesday I'm supposed to do this production stream with Beatport Twitch.
Ugh.
That's why I kind of like rebuilt this, but I have no fucking clue what I'm supposed to do. So if you're interested, tune in. I'm not even sure on Tuesday night. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm doing.
If anybody's interested, usually on Saturday afternoons around 12 Pacific time, I kind of do a live stream from my Twitch where I just kind of open up the DAW in my studio and I just kind of produce a track for an hour live if anyone wants to hop in. So that's always an option. That's
amazing. I'm going to watch that and get some tips for Tuesday then.
Yeah, people can watch me publicly fail at writing music in front of everybody.
Same here.
Nice.
So my Twitch is Drumcell with DRUMCE11 for those who are asking in the questions.
When's
All right, that's it.
Nice.
All right, guys.
DJs and
Good to
Beers.
see y'all. Take care. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks,
All right,
Tiana.
we'll be back next week, and good night, everyone.
Night,
Stay
peace.
safe and out of the virtual world.
Cheers.
I'll
But
sedate myself
see
now.
you in the virtual world next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Peace.